Shalom, shalom. Welcome to today's episode of Living Chronicles. I am honored to be here today with my brother and friend, Ahk Rifael. Welcome to Living Chronicles.
Thanks.
Okay, and this is who I call, y'all have heard about the people in the mafia, and they know where all the bodies are buried. That's Rifael. He knows a lot of stuff, most of which he won't be able to share. But welcome to Living Chronicles. I'm going to give a little bio information, and then we're going to start with our questions. So, Ahk Rifael, and the meaning of his name is the healing of Yah, or healing of God. He came to Israel in 1970, and he was only 3 years old, which I didn't know until I saw his bio. He's currently 56 years old, no grandchildren yet. So during his time here in the kingdom, he has been on the CFF Council. He's been served in the area of public relations for the community. He's been the assistant to the mayor of Dimona, Benny Beitom. He's worked on the board of the Kerut party that makes up the Jewish Congress. He's been on the board of the Israeli Basketball Federation. He's a professional basketball coach. He's an entrepreneur, and he's also worked as a gym teacher in the Israeli school system. Now, those are the things that he's written, but he's done so much more. We probably take an hour just to do a bio on you and all the things that he's done. So, again, welcome to Living Chronicles. And we're going to get started with our questions. My first question is always, share your story on how you came into the kingdom and coming to Israel.
Wow. Thanks for inviting me and having me today. Came at the end of 1970, the beginning of 71. Came with my parents. It was just me.
Just you?
It was just me. I had a sister that was born here in 1973, I think it was.
So you're the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
I always thought Yakieta was older than you.
No, I'm the oldest. Well, she may think she thinks she's my big sister.
Well, I got a sister like that too. So
came, started school here at the beginning. In 1973, I was there.
1973, Kingdom School in Holiness.
Yep. Grew up. How we got here and why we came, that's a long story for another day.
Okay.
My father and my mother decided to come here. They bought me when I was 3 years old, and been here ever since.
So this is really all you know.
Yep. Until the late 90s, I decided to travel back.
Right.
I've been here all my life. I grew up here. That's all I really
So
know.
you went through the whole process of Kingdom School and Holiness, all the different cities and learning, and
And that's an experience.
that's a story in
That's
and
a
of
story in
itself.
itself. But I do have to say, as a youth, growing up in the community, that part going from 5 to 10 was one of the most challenging seasons or times of our life, or of my life anyway.
Okay.
Going to a ride, leaving your parents at 5,
At,
going to school in a ride, and Nasi, well, Akamishada was my first gym teacher in a
okay.
ride.
He used to teach school. Wow, I never
He
knew
was my
that.
first, he was the one who really got me started playing basketball.
Oh, okay.
It was Akamishada. Then from there, we went to Mitzvah. When
Right.
you turn 7, if they call it 7s and 8s, you would go to
Right.
Mitzvah. And that was an experience because, that's when the time when we didn't have a lot of nothing.
A lot of
A
food,
lot of
and children
food,
were really
clothes, shoes,
hungry.
and the children really was hungry. And I was to be funny, not to be funny, but I was always fortunate to always stay at somebody's house who really took care of us.
Okay.
Now, in a ride, eventually got moved to Naskeskiahu's house
Okay. In a ride.
in a
Okay.
ride, and he took care of us. We ate. When
Okay.
other children didn't have nothing to eat, and when they didn't eat, they always complaining of how they was treated. We was eating.
Okay.
And then I moved to Mitzvah, and I stayed with our governor Katan. At the time, he was the Nasi. He was the head of Mitzvah.
So you ate good.
We ate good because the Nation Store was our house, and he made sure that if we didn't eat, the sisters would get on onish.
Oh,
We
okay.
had to have seconds, and he had a lot of order. He was real strict.
Okay.
It was funny because they used to call us, for lack of a better word, the house niggas, and yeah, because we ate, but we worked.
Oh,
We
okay.
worked while all the children was outside, and the children would go out and play, and we couldn't go out and play like that. They made us do our homework, and then
Okay.
we worked. We had to pick all of the grains before we could go out on the weekend. So if you
The
remember,
grains just for your
just
household?
for our house,
Okay.
and if you remember, back then we picked everything.
Picked.
Can you imagine having 6, 7 grains that you have to pick before you can go out? Kilo. And it was super dirty.
And
And then they
bugs.
had somebody, it was four of us that stayed there from Dimona. So when we pick it, somebody had to come and check it. So if they found something in it, we had to repick it. And then you remember they had to pick palava greens.
Oh,
Palava greens is so hard to pick. They would 10 kilos and we would have to pick it. So we
right.
stayed on the first floor. And so we would have a trade-off. The other dean would come around to the back. Those that was us, we would give them food, and they would throw our greens away.
Y'all was throwing. They
We was
wasn't
throwing-
helping pick them. They
No,
was
we were
throwing them
throwing
away.
When they take the stems out, we would add into the stems so that they can go and throw the greens. Man, that's a lot of greens. 10 kilos of palava greens, and you got to pick grains and
Eggs?
greens before we would go out on the weekend.
Man.
And that's a lot. And so the other dean would always call us, because they was like
Right.
the slaves outside, and
Right.
they was in the field and they didn't have no food, but we always have food. So it was something because my friends always ate out the garbage.
Oh.
They would have to go and do what they had to do, and so they would always be scuffling. So everyone did all our work or did our homework or whatever for the week. And if you know our governor Katan, he's real orderly, real strict in order. He had 2 wives, Ima Malka and Ima Leah. We called them Doda Kitana and Doda Gedola. And so they would make sure that them things. And so for me, that's why I say it was challenging, because you would see all of your friends not having nothing to eat, and they would always come to us. And so that's why I say I was fortunate, because I've always stayed in them houses. And then from there, we came to Dimona. And Dimona, then you went back to your regular houses or whatever.
Wow. Okay. So the next question is some of the things you did as a child growing up here. Some of your favorite pastimes, favorite friends, favorite teachers, etc.
Well, growing up in the community, if you remember, we didn't have a lot of toys. We had to make things happen for us. So we played hide and go see. We played Chef Evening. We played running bases, dodgeball. Then we had the community had 2 or 3 bikes, and as children we would sit on the curve in the shikun and we would have to sit there, and everybody would get a spin on the bike. We'd ride around the Chicone, and then the next person come until we kept going. But as I got older, to around 10, Akel Kareem started a program. Now, he used to be over the Ministry of Sports and Recreation, him and Ak
Okay.
Yehuda.
Okay.
So he was doing more of the public relations part of the sports, who did outsourcing or went out to set up games or whatever during that time. And if you remember, they had Big Red.
Right. That was the
Big
basketball
Red was
team.
like our national team,
Okay.
was the community's national team. And my aspiration was to always get to play
For
for
Big Red.
Big Red. And so I would always go to I would watch their practices. And Akel Kareem started setting up these games for the youth. I was the youngest, and Ben Kolaya always played with the older youth. Okay, and I always Ben Kolaya, and he played with he was the youngest player on Big Red.
On Big Red.
Yeah, he
So
was the
you had
youngest.
Big Red, then you
He
had
had the,
like the middle
we had the
age
middle
team, and
age
then the
team, and
younger
then we had the
team.
younger team. I always wanted to play because I could play, so I always wanted to play with the boys older
Right.
and with the Big Red. So I always would pat myself after what Ben Kolaya was doing. He would always, and he worked hard to make the team, and so he literally got to play. He wasn't just sitting on the bench. He generally really got to play. So I went to Akel Kareem and I told him, I said, we need to start a young team. So Akel Kareem started this young team. And during that time, Akel Kareem, if you know Akel Kareem, he was one of them hard but strict. And he would always, if y'all gonna win, y'all gotta pray. You gotta eat this. You got. So he would always bring us parsley.
Parsley,
Yeah.
fresh parsley,
Every time we go to the game, he had these big
bunches.
bunches of parsley, and he would pass it out. This gonna give y'all energy, and we would always bust out laughing like eating parsley. We already got energy. What parsley gonna do for us? But he made sure that every week. Then he said, "I want to put y'all in a soccer program." So the city had a basketball program and a soccer program, which I played in both.
Okay.
Played on the soccer. So during that time, Akel Kareem was the one who helped formulate these young brothers staying out of trouble, because he told us, he said, I know that this would keep you all out of trouble. So he would come and get us. So we had to practice every day. And that became my idol, because Akel Kareem, if you ever seen Akel Kareem to me was the greatest player that ever played in the community.
I don't recall seeing him play, but I remember him.
At the same time, he always looked outside to have us in all kind of tournaments outside. And he started this organization called Athletes for Yah.
Okay.
Okay, and he went and got all these brothers that was playing outside from America.
Okay.
Willie Sims, O.C. Perry, Levon Mercer, Carl Neverson, and wanted them to invest in us.
Right.
So he started this program, and I'm like, man, I really liked it, because the Israeli kids always had teams. And
Right.
if you would see them, they always had bags, they always had uniforms,
Right.
and we didn't have anything. So as we was growing up, before I even made the team, we would always look at what the Israelis had. So I won my first race, and I'm like, man, I could really do this. So every year I started running, and I became one of the fastest youth in the community, to where I was the fastest for a long time. So we started this program where we would run in the Israeli track meets. He started putting us in Israeli track meets, and I was winning. But we never practiced. We didn't have nothing to
Right.
practice. We didn't have no track shoes. We was running barefooted. We was
Right.
running in gym shoes. So during that whole time, it helped keep me out of trouble.
Right.
It gave me something else to do, when a lot of youngsters, they wasn't fortunate, they wasn't athletic, or they wasn't into sports like that. So we got to a point when we started playing in the basketball program, we hadn't lost no games.
Wow.
For like 4 years straight, we had never lost a city game. Until one time, the leadership called the meeting, and they were like, we're going to do this banquet for the youth that played. And they had a banquet, and they acknowledged the fact that we hadn't lost in 4 years, and gave Akel Kareem a special award for training us or whatever. So from that point on, Akel Kareem, when he got put out of the community.
Right.
Okay, I was an adult by this time. I coming into CFF, and then I become a young brother. Akel Kareem get put out of the community. So during the time he get puts out, in my mind, I'm like, I want to continue it.
Right.
So because he was still trying this while he was out, I would meet with him periodically. And the first time I met him, he was in Ra'anana. And where he was staying at, he told me where he was staying. It just broke my heart because he was like my idol.
Right.
And so when he told me where he was staying, I'm like, man, it's got to be a better way. So he introduced me to Willie Sims. Willie Sims played for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Okay.
So I became real close with Willie Sims. I would go to all their games. And from that point on, I started asking questions. How you doing this? Asking the management. I got to introduce to Maccabi Tel Aviv management.
Okay.
And so I got to asking them and told them what I wanted to do. So eventually later on, I decided to open up a nonprofit. But before I even opened up the nonprofit, I always wanted to have something because of going to track meets, going to the basketball games, and children was never in none of them tournaments.
They were never included.
They were never included.
Participated.
Never participated. We didn't have the money for it. And after we left the Shikun coming to the Kifar, we didn't have the same camaraderie that we had up there. Mm-hmm. Because there we was closer. Mm-hmm. When we was in the Shikun, we were much closer. And the children, because we was all in the Shikun, so we all came downstairs to play
In that one little area.
In that one little area,
right.
and we played there till 8, 9 o'clock at night until it was time for us to go in, until our curfew, because we all had curfews.
Right.
Until our curfew. So that brought us together. When you moved to the Kifar, some people still lived in the Shikun. Some people still lived in. I was not one of the last families who moved to the Kifar.
Oh, okay.
We were one of the last families.
Y'all lived at the telephone by
We
it?
lived at the telephone
Right.
by it. What's funny though, as a youngster, we lived in 3 different cities. We lived in Arad before. We lived in Mitzpah. I'm talking about my family, not.
Oh, okay, your whole
as
family?
My whole family. When it was just me and my sister. Now, going back to one of my favorite teachers in Mitzpah was Nasi Ben David.
I remember him.
Nasi Ben David was the one who taught me Hebrew. He was my first Hebrew teacher
Okay.
when I was in Mitzpah. And he was real fun.
Oh, he lived in Mitzpah at
He
one
lived in
point?
Mitzpah.
Because when I met him, he was living in Arad.
He lived in Mitzpah first. Mm-hmm. And in Mitzpah, who lived with us was Nasi Asiel's family, which was Asiel, Uriel, Mikal, Hoshiana. I was the youngest of all of us. Aharon, Anafiel, Kananya.
All y'all lived together?
All of us lived in.
Wow.
We lived in Mitzpah.
Together.
But this was before we were sent to go, because that's before we lived in Mitzpah first.
Okay.
Then we moved to Dimona.
Okay.
And then from there they sent us to Mitzpah and Arad. So during that time we all was there, and so that was a good time too, because I remember, I don't know if Aharon and remember, we had our own little band. And we had cans. Somebody had the guitar. They had the guitar with the rubber bands on it, and we decided we were gonna start our own band. And
y'all were gonna be like the mini soul messengers.
Yeah. We didn't. I don't even remember if we remember the soul message because it was so long ago. But we didn't have nothing to do.
Right.
So we had to make something out of nothing. So this is like the friends that we had growing up then.
Right.
And then when we got separated, I had to get some new friends. And I grew up in my house in Dimona. When I finally moved to Dimona.
Y'all lived up on the hill in that last row of houses.
Before that, when I moved to the Kifar, when I was
when y'all moved to the Kifar, that wasn't the only house y'all lived in?
Before that, I moved when we was living in Shikun.
Oh, okay.
I was in Shikun. We stayed with I stayed with Aviel. These are the
Aviel?
friends Aviel that's married to Raya.
Oh, okay.
His brother Ephraim.
Okay.
Nazir. Mm-hmm. We all stayed together for years. And that house was coin showing. We called our house the brothers buy it and the sisters buy it. Because on one side was the brothers, and on the other side was the sisters. Mm-hmm. And we were the youngsters, and then we had a bunch of brothers. And it was just something because we all had mats. We all just had to lay on the mats. Everybody, we got to sleep first because we were the youngsters.
Right.
And so we was home first. But the adults came in from work or wherever they was at afterwards. Ravel lived with us up there, Yehuda. Nasasiel's Yehuda.
Okay.
They all stayed up there with us. So it was funny because, them guys was older.
Right.
And they used to always do tricks on us, or especially me. Hey, you want this? Go do this for me. You know how your older guys are, go do this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I stayed in a house with a bunch of brothers. So that made me grow up fast. Mm-hmm. Even though going to school I was like a crybaby, quiet. I was a loner, and I guess we have to have this another day, this conversation or this podcast, because it would take us to another whole hour or two to go into the
Okay.
whole youth of growing up here and what we went through as youngsters growing up here. Because I mean, we had our experience in Iraq, which I think Iraq traumatized me.
Okay.
Growing up in Iraq, it really traumatized me, along with watching my friends get traumatized,
Okay.
based on the fact that we had to go and we didn't want to go, and you being taken away
That
from
first
traumatized me wasn't the fact of us going up there. It's what I seen my
while you were
friends
there.
go through and what I had to go through going there without your parents there. And you know, we already don't have anything as a community, and then as families. You don't. When I say anything, you don't have no shoes like that. You don't have no money. You don't have no food. And now you sending me to a city that they got to feed me, and then they got children,
Right.
and they children is the first ones who's gonna get whatever is to be
Right.
to be given, and to see my friends get whooped at 6 years old for taking something or being hungry, and then they go in there and
Yeah.
get some, and then they get beat, and then I'm 5, got to watch my friends get beat, and they make us stand there. You got this is an example. So if you do this, this was gonna
This
happen
was
to
gonna
you,
happen to you.
and it traumatized us. I mean, some people would say that's how they say what they say. This was the way they showed they love. To where they said, we do this to you because we love you. To me, I mean, we at that particular time, that's what we believed. But as we got older,
No, even then you didn't believe it.
no, no,
At 4 or 5 years old,
no,
you like, no, I don't want to be loved like
no.
this.
At all seriousness, I'm gonna be honest. That's what we believed.
That's what you really
We
believed?
believed everything that they told us. Anything that was told to us. They told us we were gonna be living in the land of milk and honey. We went outside literally looking for that honey and that milk. They told us that if you did this, you was gonna die. And I was the kind of person that believed so much that they told us, if you do something and I'm around you and I don't tell on you, I'm gonna die.
So you were a tattletale.
Yeah, I told everything because I'm like, if I don't tell on you, I'm gonna get in trouble. And this is what they really put into us. So I lost a lot of friends because them guys was doing. I had some friends. If you know IVL and them, if you ever hear IVL and them story and how the community, you see all the hedges and everything around. It was them who did that. It was IVL. They called them. We called them the chain gang.
What they planted
We were all on Onish. Okay, it started out with about 50 boys. We when we moved to the Kifar, in the back of the Kifar was nothing but mountains.
right.
So
So all of that that's back there now was not
never
there.
there.
It was all mountains
Even
and
the
dirt.
school on the other
Yeah,
side across the street
Akbar
wasn't no
wasn't there.
road there, wasn't none of
Zilman
that.
wasn't there.
No,
None of that.
wasn't even a street
In
there.
fact, the Kifar was the end of the city at that point. I mean, there was still a road to go, dirt road to
Oh,
go down
down.
over the hill,
Yeah.
but it was all dirt behind there.
And so what had happened is that one Yonomo Kareem, I got my Yonomo Kareem money. You know, doing Yonomo Kareem, they would give us money, the parents.
Okay.
So I got like 50 shekels for Yonomo Kareem.
And that was a lot back
That was
then.
a lot back then. And some money had come up missing. You remember Akasiel, that lived in Itivo?
Okay.
He was on mission, and he would always be in and out. He stayed at Sayasaska house. Some money had come up missing from him. And one of the young boys had took his money, and they brought it down to our house. And they didn't have me in the room because they knew I was going to tell. So they discussing what they going to do with the money. But I always knew because they were there. But I didn't have no 100%
Yeah, proof.
that they was the ones that was doing everything. But they would come to our house. That's where the meeting place was. They would come down to see IVL, Ephraim, Nazir. We would all be sitting in there. So we decided this day we all going to buy some guns.
Guns?
Guns. So we went and bought, it was doing Purim.
You talking about toy guns?
Toy guns, but they
Okay.
all look real.
Okay.
So
And just for anybody that didn't know, children weren't allowed to play with guns.
we wasn't allowed to play with guns. So a bunch of the boys went and they bought these guns. I think it was like $100 they had took. So they took the $100, went and had it changed over, and we decided we were gonna buy all these guns. Now I took my money from Yonomo Kareem and bought my gun. So during this time, about 50 guns, all these boys, we went up and we were playing Indian and cowboys in the mountains. And one day they trying to investigate who took this money, but nobody was doing no talking. So one of the young boys was at Nasikimano house today. But that's Nasiki, but it was really Yadiel's house.
Right then, yeah, yeah.
And we was all in the Kettle Kill. Carverell was there. We all sitting there. Somebody took some money from Carverell and Kettle Kill. So one of the boys, they was going in Ima Kenanit's house. They running to hide the money, and they slipped, and the gun fall out of his pocket. And she see the gun. It looked so real. She started screaming, "Hey, this young son got a gun. He got a gun." So, security come, and they get to asking him where he get the money from. And one thing led to another. I got it from him. I got it from him. Before they knew it, it was 50 of us. They had all called the Nazi kids at house. You remember Akadonia?
Yeah, I remember Akadonia.
Right? He was there. Took us all in the house, and we all sitting there. Everybody scared. We don't know what's going to happen. Then we wasn't no lights on the Kifar at the time. So
when we all sitting there in candlelight.
We all sitting in the front room. We all sitting there. And they says they going around. So they take all of us the next day. And they bring us in front of the Yellow Dame out in before school when we come out to line up for the nation song. We was doing it out there in parking lot behind Saya Saskars at the time.
Peanut Butter Palace. Okay.
Peanut Butter Palace.
Right.
And they told all of us to take a wall, to line up around the wall and turn around and put us in the corner out there. And they tell everybody the reason why we was in the corner is because we had took this money. Because we had bought these guns. So for that whole day, then they took us up to Akavia's house where the Imam Baye was. Wasn't nothing in there. It was all vacant.
Nothing. So we had just moved to the Kifar. Yeah.
And so they told all of us we was on Onish. About 50 of us. We all standing around the wall. We in the corner. Now we think it's a joke. And now, in the morning, it wasn't no joke. And the night before, because they thought we were going to get stretched. They used to take all the boys and whoop them.
Right.
But they didn't whoop us this time. They told all of us to stand up there in the corner. They left us up there all day. So we trying to decide, y'all, do we want to deal with this? We like around 12, 13. So we all decided, no, we're going to run away together. So who going to be first to go down the hill? So we all standing there, and we all saying, who going to be first? Who want to run first? So don't nobody want to run. We all saying we going to run away, but don't nobody going to go.
And wait, where was y'all going to go to?
We don't know, but you remember, if you run away, they come and find you.
Right.
They going to come look for you, but we still say, man, we ain't got to deal with this. So Shamaria take off. And we all bust out laughing, and we like, no, we ain't going. So he got to come back. So when they narrowed it all down, some people had bought their money from money that they had.
Right.
Some people had, but it was 7 of them that knew where the money had come from. They had took that money. So they took them 7, and they put them on Onish. And first we had to eat in Kettle Kill standing up for like a whole week. They made us stand up. We go to school. We had to stand up. Wherever we went, we was on Onish.
You had to stand up.
We had to stand up. Couldn't talk. They took us in Kettle Kill. We had to stand around the wall and eat our food standing up. We was on Onish at our houses, and we couldn't go outside. So finally they came and took us off, but they kept the 7. I'm not gonna name who they were.
Okay,
but
we're not gonna name who they are.
The 7 brothers, and they had to walk around in a single file line. Nasi Kizia was the head, and anybody know Nasi Kizia? We was happy that it was him.
I lived with Nasi Kizia
and nobody else.
Right.
Because if it had been somebody else, it wouldn't have been. But Nasi Kizia was real lenient. He taught us a lot.
Right.
He taught us a lot of crafts. Things how to do with our hands.
Right.
He started he was one of the ones who helped with the Boy Scouts, Sopim. He took us to the mountains. He let us eat. We did overnight camp outs. Him and Ahk Rifael.
Okay.
So we trusted Nasir kids.
Right.
And he listened to us.
Right.
And so during that time, they built the Kifar. When I say built the Kifar, they did all
the repairs, the planting, all the work that had to be done.
Yeah, it was the last. They were the last ones, and they did this for like 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Every morning they would get up at 6, and they would have to work till sundown. They only got like 2 breaks.
What, they didn't go to school?
No.
Wow.
That
was their ownish.
That was their ownish. Now, one thing I have to give acknowledgement to is Nasio Kanan. Nasio Kanan have been a vital part in a group of us that's young brothers today. Some of them here, some of them not here. But when we lived in the Shikun, he took us every Shabbat to the mountains.
Every Shabbat?
Every Shabbat he would take us to the mountains, and he would just let us talk. It was about 8 of us, and he would let us talk. he never stopped us, never said. And we talked about all the stuff that was happening to us, who we liked, who we didn't like, but he would never say nothing. Every now and then, he would say, "Y'all remember y'all had that conversation and y'all said this or that," and then he would tell it that y'all should do it this way or y'all should do it that way. He listened to us though. He listened, so he knew what was on our mind and what was on our hearts. And so because of that, me and him formulated a real special bond and relationship because he listened to us.
Right.
And that's something that the youth is yearning for now. Somebody to
Somebody
just listen
to
to
just
them.
listen.
Yeah, somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And that's something that don't happen today
Right.
with the youth. And so I always said when I became an adult, I wanted to make a change. I wanted to do something for the youth that wasn't there for us.
Right.
And I wanted to do it different. And so the other thing was they always taught us they was building this for us.
Right.
And that they was going to lead us to us. And we really believe that when y'all get older, y'all going to be Aturim, y'all going to be Nisakim, the world is waiting on y'all. And here it is 50 years later. We still hearing the same story. So I felt that at a time in my life that I wanted to make that change and give something back. The other thing was, when you growing up and you always say, when I get this house, I'm going to make my house, it's going to look like this. When I have my children, and it came so fast.
Right.
It comes so fast.
Right.
And by us always sleeping on mats, and then we would always go to Israeli houses. We didn't have no televisions.
Right.
So we always go to Israeli house to watch the $6 million man.
6 me. Okay.
The Bionic Man. We would go there to watch that. We would go there to watch Roots, the movie Roots. We would go to their houses. So I always said, man, why they could have furniture in their house
And we can't.
and we can't. When I get older, the first thing I wanted to do was get a house and put furniture in there. Then I said, when I got my children, the things that happened to us wasn't going to happen to my children. The things that I didn't have, I was going to make sure that they had. We ate bulgur every day. For a long time, I hated bulgur. I hated rice. I hated buckwheat.
Right.
Now, I love it now.
Right.
But during the time,
yeah.
because when we had buckwheat in the shikun, we had the kettle. That came years later.
Right.
But in the buckwheat, I don't know if you remember, it had black husk in it.
Right.
And they gave us the husk. And I'm like, man, do we have to eat this? Then the way we made money, a lot of children didn't have money. We had to hustle. So we used to steal the crates
From the stores.
from the stores and take them to Chevron and sell them.
How did y'all get to Chevron?
When they used to go to the market, on the market truck, went to the community market truck, went to Chevron every week. And so we got to go.
Okay.
I was one of the ones who was fortunate, got on there to go every week. And I would sell the crates. Me and Kimuel, Ben Shmuel, we would go down there and sell the crates. And then we would have money. And from that, because like I said, when I was a youth, I never got in trouble. This is moving forward. Rabbi asked me and my Abba if I would go to the Yehud to work at the factory.
Oh, okay. This is when you were like a teen at that point. You had finished school.
Yeah. And so I did.
So you worked at the tofu factory.
I worked at the tofu factory.
Okay.
And they said, you're a kingdom worker, so you don't get paid.
Right.
And so when he came and told me, he said, because you have been an example of a child growing up, never getting in no trouble, I want to send you. So I did the deliveries.
Okay.
So I knew my way. They used to call me the GPS. I know, because doing deliveries, you got to know where the traffic going back up, what city. And so we had a route. I did Rishon's. We didn't do delivery. We just took the food to the factory. To the restaurant.
Okay.
Because we would just be coming from Dimona. We had to get everything made. Shani's, we went Petah Tikva and that whole area and that over there. Slishi's, we went to Jerusalem and all that area. Rivi's, we went to on Rivi. I did all the Kaifa, all the northern part. Periodically, we would go to Eilat.
Who was the driver?
Kohen Abraham. Man, I love Kohen Abraham. That was the
He is funny.
And man, me and him fought every single day. Every day we fought. And it was funny because I want to listen to my music. And so we had to, you remember the truck? We had the cow truck.
Okay.
That big truck.
The big truck,
It was a Tenenuva truck, but we called it the cow because it had the big cow on it.
Right.
And I put a tape recorder in it.
Right. Oh, you put a tape recorder.
Yeah, I put the tape recorder in it.
Because there weren't no cell phones then. There were no earbuds.
So I bought the tape recorder and put in there. And we would go, and I would put my music. He said, "That's Lama Rama Ding Dong. Take that off." He always wanted to listen to the news, and I'm like, "I got to stay woke with you." So I would do this, fall asleep, and he would hit me, and I'm like, "Stop hitting me! You don't want me listening to my music." And he would say, "Boy, you know what? My grandmother used to say, or my mother, he said, it's so many people under the ground for thinking." He said, "That's why all them humps is on the ground." I used to always like, "Man, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear my music." So what he would do, if I fell asleep, he couldn't remember the route. He would never remember the route. So I
Wow.
had to stay woke. So one time I fell asleep, and we wound up in the Tanya on the beach. And he wake me up. "How did we get here?" And I'm like, "What you mean how we get here? I was asleep. Where are we?" So I look, and I'm looking at the sign. I'm saying, "We're in the Tanya." And so I tells him. So I would always come back. They would always ask, and I said, "Y'all, how did it go?" So I told him one time. And so both of us get in trouble because I'm disrespecting him, because I'm always fussing at him, and he's getting in trouble because he can't remember the route. But they used to always tell me, "You can remember a book." He could read a book from beginning to the end.
And remember every
Remember
word.
every word, but he couldn't remember. And we would fight all the time. And he would always ask me, "You hungry?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, then buy you something to
He
eat."
always had jokes.
But
He
he
always
always,
had something to
because we
say.
worked at the factory, we would
Right.
eat before we left. But he always had ice cream
Oh, okay.
in his teak. And I used to call his teak a freezer because he would wrap his teak in his thing. And so he always would tell me these stories. He used to always tell me, "You remind me of the guys that I used to live with in the Shikun." He lived with some rough jokers. You remember he lived in 18 down with
Okay.
Sweet Daddy and them.
Okay. All
And he was
right.
the head of transportation.
Right,
Sweet
right. He
Daddy
did
and
live there.
Queen
Yeah.
Abraham used to drive.
Yeah.
So he always would tell me this story. And he told me this story one time, and that made me and him, we really, really got close. Because it was the funniest story I had ever heard. He said that he was over transportation. I mean, he was working with Sweet Daddy, was over transportation, but he used to drive. So when they used to go to Midspace, they had this wooden box. And it was like the mailbox. So in the mailbox with all the mail that would go to the different inland cities. So he had some biscuits in this mailbox one time. He loved biscuits. So he had put these biscuits in the mailbox, and it had a lock on it, like this big lock that he would lock it up with. So one day came home, and the biscuits is gone out the box, but the box got the lock on it. So now he trying to figure out who ate his biscuits. But they like, Wayne ate your biscuits. The lock, you couldn't have put them in the thing. The lock
Right.
is on there. They
Right.
had picked the lock and put the lock. Now the lock got the screws, and you can unscrew the lock and then
Right.
screw it back. And so they telling him, the yellow ding down, Wayne eats your biscuits. Evidently wasn't no biscuits in the box. So he told me, he told him, "You all are some low down dirty dogs. Whoever ate my biscuits, and God gonna get you." So he used to always tell me, "God coming for you too." So I said, "Well, we gonna both get it. We in the truck together." So me and him would be at it all the time. So yeah, Queen Abraham, one of my favorite people.
You had a very interesting childhood, most
I
certainly.
did. I was fortunate. I say it was blessed because I got to do a lot of stuff that a lot of the young youth didn't get to do. I remember, we got to go on the sacred visitations, and that's the good that I remember, because we had our good things that we could say we
Yeah.
remember, and the bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sometimes the good overrode the bad, even
Right.
though we was traumatized, but we still.
Right.
And Nasi Shalir made sure that we had the best time of our lives. I ain't gonna never forget. Oh, I got to tell you this story. I ain't gonna never forget that one time we went on this trip, and we was, I don't know if nobody know how, because the Yaldeen used to watch anything. When we was growing up, when we didn't have a lot of television, but we could watch. They used to have movie night, and they would show us anything. As long as it wasn't sex, we could watch anything.
Right.
Until one time, I don't know if you've seen the movie Road to Freedom.
I don't
It
recall.
was with Muhammad Ali. It's a real, it's a good movie. It's called Road to Freedom, and it was about these slaves and how they was trying to fight, or black people, they was trying to fight for their freedom, and how most of them got killed, and how the Ku Klux Klan came and burnt their house
Right.
down. So before that, we had went. Well, we had went and burnt down. It was a group of us. We saw this movie, and we was so mad. We went, and they used to call it the Hodu Shikun because it was right next to the Shikun, and it was where the Hodus live. And so they had the sliding boards and everything. So we was like, hey, we was pissed off. We saw the movie, so we burnt it down. And so from that point on, they were like, hey, the children cannot watch no more of these movies. So when we turned like 15, 16, we go into sacred visitation. Nasi Shalir love movies. So he takes us to Tiberias, and we going to the movie theater. This is the nastiest movie theater we had ever been in. Had bugs everywhere, but he
Wasn't
like,
like Damoni even had a movie theater back then.
no, yeah, we did.
Where? At the Montanaz?
No, in the Shikun. I mean, in the
In the
Americas upstairs.
Maracas? Oh,
Yeah, upstairs
oh,
over the fruit store.
okay,
That's where the
okay.
movie theater was. So he took us to the. Well, we couldn't go. Well, we would sneak up there,
Right.
and
Of
go.
course.
And so we couldn't go to watch this movie. Nazi shit. It was Scarface.
Oh.
And Nasi Shalig said he wanted to see the movie. He said, no, we're gonna let them see this movie. And all the adults was like, Nasi, they don't need to watch this movie. And he's like, why? They gonna see it anyway. Why are we sheltering it? We just gotta explain to them what it is that they seeing.
Right.
So he took us to see this movie. Man, we love Nasi Shalig from that day on. We like, hey, he the best Abba dude, everything. He took us to see Scarface. And he told us, he said, y'all burnt the Shikun down. Don't y'all come and be doing nothing else crazy. But he took us to see that movie. And you know, we had some funny times during the time in school growing up because I went to school with O'Dade.
With O'Dade?
O'Dade.
Okay.
O'Dade was in my class, even though he much older.
Right.
But they always, they weren't gonna never let O'Dade graduate. But when O'Dade first came, we thought O'Dade was a brother.
Why?
Because he looked like a brother.
Okay.
And then the stuff that he used to say. When he came, we out there singing the nation song, and don't nobody know who he is. You know how the guests come in.
Right.
O'Dade used to teach us about Christianity. He had his Bible, and he would teach us about Jesus, and we all be sitting there, and we get to go on this trip. And Nasi Shalig asks us, he says, who knows why they planted these trees? He's talking to eucalyptus trees on the shore. And he said the reason, none of us know, nobody never told us why they planted these trees.
Right.
So we all sitting there, we like, we don't know. And Nasi Shalig is like, you mean to tell me all y'all Kingdom School and Holiness scholars, y'all don't know why they planted these trees? And we like, no. So Dave's name at the time was Jeffrey. He said, I know. So Nasi Shalig said, Jeffrey, you the only one that got sense. Tell me why. He said, doggone it, because they wanted to. Nasi Shalir looked at us.
Y'all didn't laugh, did
Oh, yes,
y'all?
we did.
Y'all did? Y'all
He
wasn't
said,
scared?
No, he said, Jeffrey, you need a kingdom name. That's why you say the things you say. So from that point on, he got his name. But we would always get in trouble with O'Dade. And this is why O'Dade always see me today. He always be like, Rafael, you remember? And I'm like, yeah, O'Dade. Akanavia was one of our history teachers. Rabi taught us logic reasoning.
Yeah.
And Akanavia taught us history. But we would take O'Dade, Sardib was our teacher, but he taught us Arabic.
Y'all were learning Arabic?
We learned Arabic. I knew the Arabic, but we don't use it as much, so I forgot a lot.
Right,
but I can
right.
still speak a little bit.
I never knew that Adib knew Arabic.
Sardib knew Arabic real good.
I did. I had
But what
no
we
idea.
would do, Sardib worked so hard, he would do this in school. And while he was falling asleep, he would be giving us a test. So we tell O'Dade, you sit in front of us, and we put the test on his back. We would paste the test on his back. And I'm not going to tell you who was in our, Kimmel was in our class, Amitai was in our class. We had a class of wild guys. So they would test, and so when the Sardine would be telling us that we learned to say the Shema in Arabic. And so he was like, man, but we was reading it off of O'Dade's back. So one time Akanavia told us, this is when we all got in trouble, but one of the favorite teachers, before I tell you about Akanavia, was Atul Uri and Asira Shaira. Atul Uri and Asira Shaira, but I couldn't stand Atul Uri.
No?
Me and him we fought all the time too.
Why?
Because, well, I'm going to tell you about Akanavia first. Akanavia was our history teacher. And he would teach us about international current events. Him and Atul Uri, but Akanavia was second when we got to 16, 17. And he was asking us, he taught us all of the countries and all of the capitals.
In Africa?
In Africa.
Okay.
No, in Africa.
Okay.
So one time he asked this question, what's the capital of Timbuktu? And O'Day gonna say, Timbuktu. And Tuanavi, he turned around and he looked, and we all sitting there like this.
Y'all was scared to laugh?
Yeah, for a minute. And he said, so he looked at O'Day, and he looking at O'Day like this. I don't know if somebody was telling O'Day to say this stuff or whatever, but if you know who was in our class, somebody could have been
Somebody
telling
put
him.
him up
Yeah.
to it.
So Tornavi, he's sitting there and he looking at us, and we all sitting there like this, trying not to laugh. And he said, "Don't say nothing else crazy, O'Dade." So he said, "What's the who built the Suez Canal?" And O'Day said, "Building and maintenance." Man, we got up and walked out. Tornavi said, "Class over, dismissed." Man, we was laughing so hard. I'm like, man, this was the fun. So,
Ooh,
we
boy.
had, and I'm telling you,
Y'all had your good
we
times.
had
You
our
had
good
your
times.
bad
'Cause one
times.
time, this was another time, Rabi would teach us logic reasoning. And Nasi Garogador would be sitting on the side, and Rabi was real strict about the way he pronounced stuff. He would say, if you say, he would ask a question, you had to say number one, number two. And if you didn't say it, if you say number one, number two, he would go back, repeat it. Number one, number two. So one day Nasi Garogador is sitting over there, and he was doing this. And all of a sudden, Rabi teaching and we teaching. All of a sudden, you hear something say, "Bam!" Oh, Dave fall off the chair. He was asleep. He hit the floor. Now, we all want to laugh.
But you dare
We
not.
better not laugh. And Rabi turned around and said, "It's okay." And we all, that was the word, we could all bust out laughing. Man, we like, man, this guy, O'Day, is the funniest guy. And this is why you have to respect him. Because O'Day been there with us for a long time. And so, O'Day, during the time, it was a group over of us. He was supposed to graduate every time until Raya came one day and said, "No, he got to graduate." So he graduated with us. It was three of us
A
brothers.
coat Raya?
Raya was like, "Hey, y'all got to stop. We got to stop." He got to graduate with us. So we made sure O'Day had everything. O'Day graduated with us.
Wow.
But he made school exciting.
He made it exciting.
Now,
Y'all look forward to going to school every
I
day.
sure did.
Just to see what O'Day was going to do.
Because the stuff he used to say and do, and man, we every single day knew we was going to get a laugh. Now, the reason why me and Atori used to fight, I'm a Scorpio, Atori a Scorpio. And I would always come to school, like, Atori is real, how would I say it? If he tell you don't do something and you do it, he going to get you. And he would always, he hate people. He love you to be smart, but at the same time, he wants you to be smart at the way he wants you to be smart. So if you think you challenging him, if he think you challenging him,
He didn't accept challenges.
he didn't accept
well.
challenges.
Right.
So one day,
As most adults back then did.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one day, Tori tells me, I came to school with these long pants on, but they was rolled. I had a roll in them. Now you roll your
You
pants
cuff
up,
them on the
cuff
bottom.
them on the bottom. And he told me, "Don't come to school tomorrow." He said, "Don't come to school with them pants rolled up again. That's trifling." So I go home and tell my Abba. Now he said, "Don't come to school with them." So my Abba said, "I bought them clothes for you. You wear them back to school." Now I got to wear these clothes because my Abba sent them back. But I get to school on a Tory, you wearing them pants again? So everybody come to school with their pants rolled up. But he ain't getting nobody but me. So me and him would always be, we would always be back and forth. I'd go tell my Abba, he says something. I'm like, "Abba, you sending me back. I got to go back."
Right, and you the one catching
I'm
the
one
flack.
that's
You the
catching
one in the
But
middle.
everybody else would come.
Right.
So I started doing stuff just because to make a Tory mad. It wasn't just me, but all the boys. He had a thing where he would always, the girls was real smart. The boys was smart, but we was always challenging him.
Right.
So I remember one time, one of the young brothers in the class was talking. They talking to me and somebody else, but we ain't talking back. He looking, to a read. And the more he teaching, the more you laugh, the more he getting you. So I'm sitting there with this half smirk on my face because I see him watching the person talking. Now he know I ain't talking,
Right.
but he's sitting there with this half smirk on his face, and he's sitting there. So he says, "Who is that talking?" Nobody's saying nothing. "Rafael, is that you talking?" I said, "Boy, you know that wasn't me talking. You looking at me." He said, "Well, who talking?" I said, "I ain't heard nothing." So he asked the next person.
Oh, you had stopped being a tattletale by then?
Yeah. So he said, look at the next person. Now the person who doing the talking, he already know. He said, "Who is that talking?" He said, "Was you talking?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, what was you doing?" He said, "Conversing." So we all stand up laughing.
Y'all
So
stayed
all
in
the
trouble.
boys started laughing. So he make all of us get up, and he take these books and put them in our hand and make us stand like this with them in our hand. for about an hour.
Oh man.
And the book's getting heavy
Of course.
for after an hour. So we intentionally would drop the books, and then he'd say, put them back in your hand. Every 15 minutes, we drop the books, and he'd say, put them back in there. And everybody laughing, because they like, these guys is challenging him, and he going to keep on. And then he tell us, bend over and touch your toes. If you ever notice, when you bend over and touch your toes, all the blood is running down in your head. So when you come up, you
be dizzy.
You dizzy. So he would count. He would wait till you say 10, 9. We'd stand up and we would all fall back. And everybody would bust out laughing. So we would do it intentionally. We already know we know how long it take now, because
Right.
we'd stand up. Until finally one day he told me, he said, when you gonna stop challenging me? I said, when you gonna stop messing with me? So he said, me and you gonna be the best of friends. So he kept me back.
He kept you back?
He said, let everybody go up to the next level.
Oh, wow.
And he kept me back. And so during halfway through the season, he looking, and he would always watch my grades. And me and him became best friends, because I'm like, no, I better stop challenging this guy.
Yeah, but you want to get out of school.
So then, I started carrying his books. So I knew everything in the class. I had his books. I knew whose grades wasn't good, whose grades was good. I would take his books home. But, he used to do the sales. I was like his accountant.
Right.
Had his money. I had everything. And so from that point on, me and him became the best of friends to the day. That's one of my favorite guys,
wow.
But he told me, he said, I'm going to break you. It was me and Kieran.
I remember
And
Kieran,
he used to make
too.
Kieran, I don't know if you remember, Kieran was one of them guys. We was in the class too. He was one of the other smart guys. He knew how to get to the children. Mm-hmm. He was one of the best teachers, though. He knew how to get us. He could break you, but he never touched us. Mm-hmm. Never had to whoop nobody.
Right.
He just knew how. It just later they wound up doing the whooping, but he never had to whoop none of us.
Right.
He made sure, even though he was hard on us, him and Shira, but they made sure that we had everything that we needed. We did all kind of events. Mm-hmm. Puri is one of the best event planners you could find.
Right.
Took us on trips. I was on his board.
Yeah.
Yep. But one time, this was another funny thing. Tori tell us, y'all be quiet. So we sitting in class, and this fly flew past. Kieran did like this and caught the fly out the air. So he told him, he said, well, I'm in the middle of talking to you, and you're going to get this fly. We cracking up. So he takes him and take this fly and told him he had to talk to the fly. So every day he had to talk to this fly and tell him, this morning I got up, I ate dust and dust and dust at 8 o'clock.
But he kept that dead fly?
Made him talk to it. But it made all of us not do other crazy stuff in class, but it was funny. So we would always, and the more we would laugh, the more Tori would get worked up. So everybody had their turn coming. Everybody in class had their turn, but he had them special ones that he would always look at and would get. And I was one of them special ones until he told me, hey, I was like, man, me and him got to become friends.
So did you ever get back with your initial class and graduate with your class? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
You have had a very interesting childhood, and I know we could talk for the next 5 hours about your childhood, but I want to move on to, you've done a lot in leadership roles outside of the community, with working with the mayor, working with the Jewish Congress, with the Israeli Basketball Federation. So having served in these semi-leadership roles as a board member, and those other things, as a second generation, do you have aspirations to one day be in a leadership position in the kingdom?
Growing up, I wanted to be. Today, I don't want to be, but I find myself always in a position of leadership, whether it's being a basketball coach, whether it's refereeing tournaments, whether it's working in the mayor's office in behalf of the community. I've always found myself in a leadership position. I decided at this time in my life, I wanted to do something different, go in another direction, back into the areas that I was into entrepreneurship. But I know that growing up here, I always wanted to be an example to the youth.
Okay.
And being an example to the youth always put you in a leadership position.
Of course.
I was on the CFF council. I worked real heavily with the YOM. Mm-hmm. So it always kept me in a leadership position. So even if I don't want to, I always find myself. I remember twice Kozavda told me, sometimes you don't know what your calling may be. And sometimes you be in a position of leadership, knowingly or unknowingly, and that I was put in a position, and that the only one person that could stop it was me. She said, the only one that can stop this is you. She said, this is what you was destined to do.
And sometimes we fight against those things that the universe requires us to do because it's not pleasant or we just don't want to do it, whatever the reasons may be. But
I wanted to, I mean, I was a brother on the move, and I always strived to be, I wanted to be on the international staff because that was the thing, to be on
right,
missions and everything. And I remember one time, Uriel came and told me, I put your name in to be on the international staff, and it was denied. And I'm like, why? And so he said, I don't know. Nobody never came back and told me. So at that point, I'm like, there's so much other stuff to be doing.
right,
But I found myself going on missions on my own on the
right.
international staff. I remember growing up, 5 times my Ima wanted to leave the community. And in the middle of
you
the
were a
night,
child.
when I was a child, and she got up in the middle of the night, it was just me and my sister, and she packed us up. The only time I seen my grandmother, she came here to get us.
Oh, okay.
And when we first moved to the Kifar, she came to get us. And I decided I didn't want to go. Nobody knew, my Abba, nobody knew that we was going to leave. And nobody said I had to stay. She just decided I'm not leaving none of my children behind. And because of that,
Because you weren't
because I
willing to
wasn't willing
leave.
to leave, now it could be because of fear, because they told us if you go to America, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And so that could be one of the reasons, along with the fact maybe I was supposed to be here doing the work that I'm doing today.
And there's no maybe.
And so,
You heard me, right?
Yeah, I heard
There's
you.
no maybe. Don't try to gloss over that.
and so as a result, I find myself, and I always think of that because nobody said I had to stay. And growing up, I've always found myself in Yahoo in a leadership position. I always head up the program with the sales team with Akshabat. We put that together. Then we lead into this whole thing with the status.
Yes. Talk to me about the status. I know that you, like I said, y'all, he knows where all the bodies are buried. There's so much that Rifael knows about the real deal of things that happened because he was in the room. And, we're not at liberty to discuss all of those things here. But talk to us about some of that.
Well, when I used to go selling, I did a lot of selling with a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people in the community, and I met a lot of people outside.
And so you began networking and
With all them
developing
individuals.
relationships with these people you were meeting.
I got a memory. Some people say it's a photostatic memory. Okay, any place I go, if somebody give me more than 50 shekels, to today I know where their house is.
Wow.
And it's been almost 20 years. And anybody that's been selling with me will tell you, to today, I know where they are. Some of them, if they gave me 1,000 shekels, somebody gave me 5,000 shekels, I would write their address. Their
You
phone
made
number.
that kind of money?
Made more than that. Wow. I had people give me 10,000 and more.
I hated selling. I did terrible. You were making bank.
Yeah. And so I would always remember them. And I would take their number, and I would always send them on the Kagin, Kaksameag, Muad'Dim Nasim Ka, ask them how they doing. And because of that, to today, I have individuals that send a check. This is how I funded the basketball program. Nobody never gave me a dime. I funded the youth basketball program for 10 years by myself.
Wow.
I bought them uniforms, bags, I paid their transportation, I paid everything for them. Nobody gave me a dime. And I made sure that they had the best of the best. Everybody thought that we had money down here because they had everything. Only thing I didn't buy them was gym shoes. I bought them sweatsuits, brand new basketballs, brand new bags. I put them in tournaments. The first Nike tournament that ever happened in Israel, I took 3 young brothers to the tournament.
Wow.
And Nike was the sponsor behind it through the help of Gavro Mifrosam. We played in the first, and I'm saying this is how I got into dealing with the whole thing with the status. Most people don't know how we got Kupakalim status. Me and Ben Kolaya's aspiration was to always play professional basketball, along with El Kareem. But we could never play professional basketball because we didn't have status. In order to play in Israel, you had to have Israeli status, or you had to be a professional foreigner. somebody American that come from
Right.
or from Europe, a Bosnian player or a foreigner American player, which we wasn't.
Right.
We was here illegally at the time,
Right.
so we couldn't play. So Ben Kolai always told me if it's any, Ben Kolai was my number one fan, number one. Anything that come up in sports, I'm there with you. So when I set up we had the first international 3-on-3 in Israel,
Okay.
and I came and told him I wanted to play. And you know, back then we couldn't go and just play basketball without getting permission or go.
Right.
So he told me, he said, we're going to do something different this time. And I told him, I'm not asking. You can come with me or I'm going on my own. And he was like, if you're going to get in trouble, I'm going with you. We're going to both get in. But we was adults at this time. So I called Gavril for Sam and told him. And he like, I'm in. I called Akil Kareem and he was like, I don't know. I got to go and ask. And I told him, I said, Akil Kareem, why are you asking? We grown. So I told him, I said, I already got permission for us to go.
You lied?
Yeah, I did. So he went. So at this time, don't know. But at the time, Akishar, it's 3-on-3. You can have 4 players, but it was 5 of us
Okay.
that went. I was the youngest, so Akishar was like one of the best players the country had ever seen.
Wow.
So I called Akishar and told Akishar, I said, I need you to go with me to this 3-on-3. So I went and told Ak Yehuda at the time that we was going. Ak Yehuda said, no, y'all can't go. We got to get permission from Rabbi. And Ak Yehuda at the time had let me do anything I wanted to do in sports. He like, you the only one doing something. I'm going to let you do it. But this time he said no, because it's an international 3-on-3. So I go and I tell Gavril and them, they all said, I'm going. So we go to the tournament. Akishar, I don't remember if he was married to Badami or not, but it was in 93. And Akishar said, I'm going to go. But he had to go to, they had a meeting with the status in 93, dealing with the status. And Akishar was supposed to have been at that meeting. And so he told Rabbi he wanted to go to this game and play in this tournament. So Rabbi told him, if you go to the game and lose, you're going to wish you had been in this meeting. If you go to the game and win, you're going to be happy you went. So he come back and he in a dilemma now because he don't know what to do. So I'm like, you don't think we could win? You don't believe in us? I don't want you. So he's like, no, that ain't what I'm saying. He said, I'm going. So we go to Tel Aviv and we go to this game. And it's being televised. It's being televised because this is the first national game into 3-on-3 in Israel. So we wound up going to the game. We on rotating. You're only supposed to have 4 players, but we rotating 5 in, and ain't nobody saying nothing. So we get to right before the last game. They got a dunking contest. They giving out all these professional. So this woman walks up, and she says, "I want to sign you all up for Kupakalim status." And we ain't got Kupakalim status though. So we ain't got no status. We can't sign up. So she like, what y'all mean? We had just getting ready to get temporary residency. So I explained to her what's going on. So then Gavril talked to her. So at the time they had 3 age brackets. So they got the over 40 age bracket, which Nasi Gavril Gadol and them could play in. Nasi Gavril Gadol is in Tiberias. He finds out about the tournament and he come to the tournament. But we still don't have permission like that.
Right.
Oh, we didn't get 100% permission. They just tell Akishar, if you go, what Rabbi told him.
Right.
So Nasi Gavril Gadol comes to the tournament. And he like, hold up, them 40-year-old guys is playing. I know we could beat them. Why you didn't tell us about the tournament? So I'm like, I told Ak Yehud and them about the tournament. They said we couldn't go. He pissed off because he wanted to play in the tournament. So I bring Yatziliel. Yatziliel, he left. He's from Atlanta.
Okay.
Tall.
Oh,
So I bring him to the game. He knew. He come to the game. They having a dunking contest. He the tallest guy out there. So I'm telling them, I want you to go in the dunking contest. But he don't want to dunk. Now he can dunk. And he telling everybody, I'm from Atlanta, so I tell everybody he can't dunk. He on a contract. He from the Atlanta Hawks. So all these guys come over and they talking to us. So the woman come back. She said, hold up, he from the Atlanta Hawks. So this get her more interested. Y'all getting people from the Atlanta Hawks to come over. Y'all ain't got no Kupak So she started asking. She said, I'm coming to Dimona. And I'm going to sign all y'all up. What could happen? They either deny y'all or they give it to y'all.
Right.
And they wound up giving it to us.
Wow.
So everybody in the community got it based on, it was international 3-on-3. We wound up winning the tournament.
Y'all won the tournament?
We wound up winning the tournament. We wound up out. That was the first time I left the country. They give us tickets to go to London.
Okay.
Everybody couldn't go because Akishar didn't have the status. And they gave us Adidas gym shoes. And they gave us all our Adidas apparel. If you come with anything that Adidas own, then you get extra bonus points. So we wound up, but the last game, is out that Dimona is playing, and we the only team that hadn't lost no games. So it's all over the whole. They got like 6 courts. They shut all the courts down to come watch us, and it's being televised live
Wow.
all over the country that we playing this game. So we losing though. We losing the last game.
Why? What happened?
They just was they bought they didn't bring no regular players. These guys are like they was professionals. But
Oh,
at
they
this
was gonna
point,
make sure y'all
they
lost,
make
huh?
sure we gonna lose. So we get in there, take a timeout call because I'm the youngest, but I'm the one that set everything up.
Right.
Ain't no timeouts. So when the ball rolled, then Kolaya, one of them, I don't remember who kicked the ball. So that's how we got our timeout. So we go in there, we make a switch, put Gavril, Akil Kareem, and Akishar in the game. And then we down 2. The game is only the 12, and it's 10-7. And they got the ball. And I tell Akishar El Kareem, I said, man, if that guy, no, I told Gavril, I said, the guy that's shooting all the points, put your hand behind him and you grab him one time and tell him, hey, enough is enough. And he ain't going to the bucket no more. Gavril grabbed the guy and told him, hey, drive to the bucket this time. The guy, man, he got shook up. He would not shoot. And Akil Kareem gets the ball. We wound up tying the game up.
10-10.
10-10. No, it was 11-11.
Okay.
And Akil Kareem is at half court. And he shoot this ball. And we hollering, no! And the ball goes in, all nets. And everybody comes over and they ask us, where are you all from? Why aren't you all playing professional basketball in the league? And we wound up winning. They gave us medallions. So at that point, this guy come over. And we started telling him about the status. We didn't have no status. This is why we wasn't playing. And I always wanted to start my own basketball club. So it's all over the country now. So the guy at the pharmacy, who runs the pharmacy today, Ellie Brunstein,
Here in
in
Dimona?
he called me and said, I want to sponsor you all.
You talking about the pharmacy downstairs, that
Yeah.
little pharmacy? Wow.
He called me and said, I'm going to be you all sponsor. I'm putting you all in. I'm taking y'all professional. We got something in Dimona to work with. But we didn't have the status.
Still didn't
so I
have
called the
status
Basketball
yet.
Federation. They answered, who is this? I said, it's Rafael. We want to open up. Click. Next time, Coin Ben Kesset. Him and the pharmacy, the guy, Ellie Brunstein, who owned the pharmacy, and Coin Ben Kesset was real close. So he goes, 2 years later, he tried again. Said, I'm going to sponsor you all. Tell Ben Kesset, I want you all to come. So Ben Kesset, Coin said, me and Rafael going to do this. So we get everything together. We open up a nonprofit with the Russian guy. Called up there. I called and they said, are you, do you got status? They clicked and they hung up in the middle of my face. So I'm like, man, this is bugging the hell out of me. We got to do something. So finally we get the temporary residency. We able to play, but we still can't play at the level we want to play. By this time, Akil Kareem is gone and he's out there. So me and him is still in communications. Akil Kareem messed up, mad. And I used to always tell him, Akil Kareem, you got to, he like, man, when we get some status, by the time he get the status, and in his mind, he too old to play. So he telling me, you got to continue what I started. And he used to talk to everybody about the status also. Now, going forward, this thing is still bothering me years later that we ain't got the status that we should get. So when we get the temporary status, there's still a lot of stuff we couldn't do.
Right.
So we still couldn't play the basketball the way we wanted to play. So I told him, I said, I'm going to get us in the league. I promise you all, I'm going to get us in the league. So I go and I get us in the league. So when we get in the league, Queen Aidia is having the same challenges that I'm having, doing things, got to get permission, but he's in the
Right.
States. Now, you know, Queen Aidia was almost like me, zealed up, we did it, whatever they told us, he
Right.
believed, but now he's coming from up under that. And so he's in the States and he called me and he said, there's a brother, his name is Jew Ali. He's in New York and he's coming to Israel. The reason why they call him Jew Ali, because he hang out with the Muslims and he's Jewish, but he's black. And his father is white and his mother is black.
Okay.
He's trying to figure out, he want to come to Israel. He meets Queen Aida at a rally or at this picnic in New York with all the Hebrews.
Okay.
All the different Hebrew communities.
Different Hebrew
The
communities.
year before, they tell Queen Aida, the community said he couldn't go because them people wasn't, they didn't like the community.
Right.
3 years later, them same people wound up here in leadership positions. Same people that they say he couldn't go see. He calls me and say, this brother's coming to Israel. I done called everybody to meet him. Now this brother, so Abraham and them go to the States and New York. His band, Koshevakia, Koshadai, them, they on, you know, when Abraham doing the band, he
Right.
go to the show. The brother wound up at their show. And he see the show, so he really get fired up about the community.
Right.
Now, to him, he's Hebrew, he's Jewish, and he's Muslim. So he's all these three
He
things.
got everything covered, all
So,
bases
no,
covered.
this is who he is. The brother thinks
right.
he is. So he comes to Israel, and when he get to Israel, they won't give him his status, and they tell him at the Ministry of Interior that he don't know what he got to do. He just know he's Jewish.
Right.
But he had never met his father.
Right.
All he know that he's Jewish. So he's come here, and he went into Karma. Karma is this Israeli woman who works on the Jewish National Fund. I mean, the Jewish Congress.
Right.
He runs into her. She tells him, I could help you get your status. So she says, you got to go back to America, though. You got to do it from America.
Okay.
So he go back to America. She flies to America, help him get his paperwork done, comes back. He finds his father. His father, he meets his father. He's watching television. His father's a professional poker player. He's watching the television and realized that's his father. They wound up meeting. His father don't understand. In America, you can't question somebody's faith. So they want to know why you got to go to Israel and say you Jewish. You Jewish. So they fighting to get all this paperwork. So Karma meets him. They go get his status. He winds up getting his status. So when he come to Israel the second time, Aidia said, won't nobody go meet this brother. Will you please do me a favor and go to Tel Aviv and meet him? I gets on the bus, go to Ramat Aviv and meet him at his dorm, at his college dorm, because he here as a student. But he playing basketball too.
Okay. He's
And
playing professional ball?
he was playing in the second league. Yeah.
Okay.
He had just got here, Gary, playing in the second league, but he
Okay,
working out.
but he's also going to school.
He's going to school. So I go meet him, and me and him become good friends. So I tell him about New World Passover, and I want to invite him down. So he comes to New World Passover, and he loves it. And then he wound up seeing Ima Shavakia and a Colt Shaddai and Abraham and them. And he like, these the people I met in New York. So that's like a whole story.
Right.
He gets caught up. And so he go back to Tel Aviv. And he fired up now. I got to go back and forth to Dimona because now he's in a position, if you know Brat, he want to help his people too. So he goes and he tell Karma, because Karma is running a campaign, is right before the elections for the Jewish Congress.
Okay.
So it's like 4 months, they running a campaign. They need black votes from America, black Jewish votes. So she tells him, you know black people in America, can you help me? And he said, no. She said, why? He said, you got to go get Rafael. So she calls me, and I'm out selling.
And that's when that was your first time meeting her?
I had never met her.
Okay.
She just called me out the clear
Right.
blue and said she want to set up a meeting. And I'm like, she says, I'm from the Jewish Congress. I want to meet you. I said, click, I'm trying to make my money. So I said, I'll call you back. I hung up. And so she calls back that evening. I want to talk. And I'm like, I ain't got time to talk. So she called me like 3 days in a row. We got to meet. So finally, I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to play her off. I said, okay, I got to go to Jerusalem.
But as much as you met people, why do you think
I didn't have time to meet her because I don't know her. She just called me out the clear blue, but I don't know that he told her to call me.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I
And
ain't
you
got
don't
time.
know that there's some dollar signs attached to that.
And I don't know nothing. All I know
Right.
is I'm trying to, right before New World, right after New World, I'm trying to make this money, so I'm going back and forth. And so I said, no, I got to go to Jerusalem. She said, I'll meet you in Jerusalem. So I'm like, I tell her I give her Ram. I give her Ram and see. I'm like, man, this lady is driving me crazy. He said, well, then go to Jerusalem and meet the lady, and I'm going with you. So we get there, we sitting at this restaurant, and I'm like, okay, what do you need me to help you with? She says, I'm Karma. I'm from the Jewish. She said, I have a party called Cherut. She explains to me about Cherut, which is a party that sits on the World Zionist Organization, which the World Zionist Organization at the time, I didn't know, but they make policy for all Jews outside of Israel.
Okay.
They don't make policy, but they have parties here like International Likud and all them. They sit on that board, but they don't make the policy for Israel. They make policy for Jews outside of Israel. And it's made up of 500 seats.
Oh.
She had 10 seats.
Okay.
In order to get the 10 seats, you got to be represented in 6 countries, 5 or 6 countries.
Okay.
Which means you got to have, so she needed, and she told me, I want to get to the executive board. In order to get to the executive board, I need so many seats. I'm like, okay, you need the seats. What you want from me? She said, I need you to help me get black votes in America. Jewish votes. So I'm like, okay, why me? She said, I don't know. Brat told me, his
The-
name Brat, but old Jew Ali said, he
right.
told me to contact you.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I could do it. She said, what do you want in return? I said, I need help with our community. We need status. I said, if you help me, I'll help you. So she said, okay. So I immediately come back, tell leadership here that about her, we want to meet. First they said no, they didn't want to meet with her. So then I sent them her bio, her name. They would go look her up, and the next day
Right.
they say, tell her we'll meet. She come down, tell us what she could do. They said okay. But in the meeting, me and the leadership and her sitting there, and she says, I want you all to vote for Raphael to be on the board of K-Root, and K-Root represents the World Zionist Organization, and we want him to be a member on our board. So I had already told her I'd be a member on the board. So we sitting there, and I'm looking at her like, why in my mind, I'm like, why are you asking them, can I be on the board when I
Right.
already told you? So they said, we'll get back with you. So when we left the room, I asked her,
Why'd she
why
do
did you
that?
do that? She said, because this would tell me what kind of individuals we in the room with.
Ah, okay.
So I said, okay. They never came back to the day and said, Kane or Low, that I could be on the board. She asked. So at this time, I'm going on with the program to help the community get the
Right.
status. So she said, this is what I need from you. I need you to help me get the votes. So immediately I call Rabbi Amram. He's a brother in the States. He
Right.
used to be in the community, but he's real heavy. He become this rabbi in the Jewish community. So he's known all over America, but he black. So I'll call him and tell him what I need. So he says, okay, this is what I'll do. You come to Chicago and I'll introduce you to all of the Jewish communities in Chicago. Along with, I call Mishael. Mishael is a friend of mine. He's in the community. He was a man of valor. So I called him and told him what I needed. So he said, cool, I'll work with you. Because he wanted to, this was something that he wanted to do all the time too. So he said, okay, I'll work with you. We wound up going back to Karma and told her we'll do it. So she set up this tour for us in America. No, we set up the tour. She paid for the tour.
Oh, wow.
She paid each one of us buku money to do this tour. And so we went to do the tour. We went to Philadelphia to meet the Hebrews in Philadelphia. I met all the Hebrews there with the minister that was down there. I can't think of his name. Sar Levy.
Okay.
Went and met with him. Then we went to Atlanta. We met with the community and then the Hebrew, our community in Atlanta. We went to Chicago. We went to Cleveland. That's when the Coin Yehuda had just started his program with all Red All.
Red
Went
All.
with them. We went to Cincinnati to meet with Nasi Mikhail and them that had left the community. The first Nasi that got put out the community.
Okay.
We went and met with them. So we went to like 9 different cities. Went to Baltimore, went to DC.
Wow.
And this was something that we had did on our own. She didn't know none of these individuals.
Right.
So doing that, her thing was, you do this, there's monies in it. And that we would take it and put back into our communities, Jewish, Hebrew communities, for education. If she got to the position that she was at.
Right.
Of course, she didn't get the position because they were told not to vote for her.
Wow.
Now, we did get...
But wait a minute. The other communities that you went to, the other Jewish
some of them
communities-
supported, but
okay,
they
but
were...
it wasn't enough.
Yeah, along with the fact they were more laid back because you know how they liked what we were saying, but we helping the Jewish community.
Right.
And so we was like, but they wanted to see if we was going to get this money.
Right.
And if we got the money, then they would come on board.
Yeah, but you couldn't get
Get
the money if you didn't
without
get the
the
votes.
So I went to the Israeli Jewish communities we went to a lot, and they was in love with us. They was ready to support, not the organization, which they did, but they were ready to support the community too. And because of the feedback that we got, I told her, I said, okay, I'll work with you continuously.
And
so
you've
we
been
came
working
back.
with her for years.
It started in 2000. I mean, in 19. It was in 2013.
2013. Okay.
Yeah. So that's when me and her started with the status. So when I came back, she was asking what was our challenges here, and I had went online and I saw that all soldiers that had served in the military could get full citizenship. But when it came time for us, they said that it didn't apply to us.
Right.
So what had happened, I told her, she went and pulled it all down offline, and we bought a copy. So we came back, bought it to the community, and she says, what I want to do, I want the community to take some people to the Minister of Interior. So we told Rabi what had happened. Rabi sent 3 families.
Right.
One family, the lawyer that we had told us don't take. Now the lawyer that we were working with was on her board. Okay. Now what pushed me into this was once we started, the lawyer loved basketball. So we sitting in the office, and he said, "I hear you're a coach." So he was in politics because he used to be in the Likud party. He was a Kaver Knesset. So he would go to politics, then he jumped to basketball. Go to politics, in between while we talking back and forth to see was I astute in politics? Did I know what was going on in Israel? And if I knew what was going on, he was a Boston Celtic fan. So he would always ask me in the middle of us in a meeting. He'd stop and just ask a question, like I was in a test.
Like he was testing you.
Like he was testing me. So finally, we wound up going to the meeting. We bring leadership to the meeting with us. We'll take him to meet the lawyer. Now the lawyer's doing this for free for us. So we go there and I tell him all the stuff. And he said, "Man, y'all need to really do something with this guy right here." He was talking about me. Said he's a sports and politics, because I knew at the time I was studying what was going on in the country. So after it got overwhelming, we back and forth. We going to meetings almost every day. And I'm coming out of my pocket to pay for me to go up there. Karma live up there already.
Yeah, but you go back and forth from
I'm back
Dimona
and forth
all
to
the way.
Dimona, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a week I got to go up there. So now I'm taking the leadership with me to the meeting. So he telling them. So now they like, "How did you meet these people?" So I'm telling them what happened. And the lawyer tells us, he says, "I know the prime minister of this country. I know the prime minister, so I know how they think. Y'all got to get to the prime minister.
Right.
Everybody else is just a pawn in the game."
Right.
So I'm like, okay. Now, when she tells me this and he tells me this, I'm like, okay. Now, this is going to 2014. 2014, Benny Beaton wanted to become the mayor of Dimona.
Right.
He had already ran 3
times and
this
lost.
is his 4th time. He had lost 3 times. So he come to me. He didn't come to me. He come to some of my friends at the rental car, and he tell them, somebody else tell them, "We want to have you all to vote for us." Now, the community has a reputation of voting for who's ever the mayor at that particular time. Now, quiet as kept, I helped Mayor Cohen get in.
Okay.
Which was the mayor before Benny Beaton.
Okay.
Mayor Cohen, that's how I got all the keys to the gym in the city. I had all the keys to the gym in the city because he said, "If you help me, I'll give you anything you want in sports."
I remember when you were working with him.
It was in the paper that only 2 people had voted for Mayor Cohen, which I was one and somebody else was one. So because I voted for him, he made sure that anything that I needed at City Hall, I could come up there for the community and get anything. But I wasn't working for him.
Right.
But I did have all the keys to every gym in the city, which the community never played it. We couldn't play in the gym.
Why?
We didn't have the keys because we didn't have the keys. We wasn't over sports.
Oh,
and we didn't have,
so you're saying prior to you getting the keys, you
would have to
didn't
go
have
to
access.
them, and then we would have to pay to get the gym for insurance or whatever. But when he came, he's like, "I made a commitment. I'm gonna give you the keys." So it was like 5 gyms, and I had the keys to all of them.
Wow.
So we was able to go in Zilman, the city gym, the gym down the hill, the one over there at the Ulpana. We had all the keys.
Okay.
So when Benny Beaton came, he was like, "You help Mayor Cohen run against me and win, then I want you to help me."
Okay.
So I'm saying, okay. So what do you want? So I want to get the status for our community, which means you got to get me a meeting with the Minister of Interior.
So consistently, everyone that you've run into and they say, "What do you want?" it's always been status for the community.
So he says, okay. I said, but I need a meeting with the Minister of Interior. I didn't think he was going to get the meeting. Now, I'm hearing that Benny Beaton is connected to everybody in the government. But he wasn't the mayor, but he had before been the deputy mayor and other things in the city. So I'm like, okay. He said, "You vote for me." Oh, and the other thing I said, I wanted somebody to be on the city council. So he said, "Who you want on the city council?" So of course I called Aharon because I know Aharon could handle him.
He can handle everything.
So I called Aharon and said, "Aharon, I got a proposal for you." And he was like, "What?" So I tell him, Aharon don't like politicians though.
Right.
So Aharon, we get to the meeting, Aharon listening, and he tell him, okay. And so he said, "I'll get back with you." So he tells me, "Man, I don't trust these guys. I don't trust nobody."
Yeah.
So he said, "But if you want to go."
But politicians are not to be trusted
So
like
Aharon
that.
says, "If you want to go, I support you. But I ain't got time for that." So I'm like, okay, y'all support me. And so Aharon said, "But I'll support whatever you want." And so I told him but I didn't know that I was going to be on his assistant at the time. I just wanted to get the
Right.
status. So I told him he come to talk to the community, and nobody in the community wanted to talk to Benny Beaton. Because, we already had a reputation of running for the same mayor that
Right.
was
Right.
there already.
Right.
By this
Right.
time, Mayor Cohen was gone. He went to the Knesset, and Eddie
Right.
Brunstein had come in. Now, Dimona, whether we like it or not, is racist. So, he's Russian, and most of the people in Dimona is Moroccans.
Right.
So it's the thing against the Russians,
And
against the Moroccans.
Moroccans.
So I'm like listening at the time. I want to go with Elie Brunstein because I know what he had, how strict he was, and how he was about doing things for the city.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what Benny Beaton could do because he hadn't been there.
Right.
So I had told Elie Brunstein I would help you. My friends at the car wash said, "No, you're not gonna help him. You're gonna go with Benny Beaton." So we said, "Okay." Benny Beaton said, "I'll get you a meeting with the Minister of Interior." Pulls out his phone. He texts Guidon Sarr. Guidon Sarr texts back, "I'm out the country. When I get back, I'll talk to him." So he gives me the phone to read the thing. So I'm thinking it's a fake message that he
Right.
already got in
Right.
his phone
Right.
already.
Right.
So I give the phone back. I'm like, "Man, don't play with me." I tell him in Hebrew, "Hey, Benny Beaton, don't play with me." Benny Beaton said, "I'm not playing. I'm serious." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." So he calls him back. Guidon Sarr says, "Okay, I'll talk to you when I get in the city, when I get back in the country." So I'm like, "Hold up. The Minister of Interior gonna
You
talk
say
to
this
me?
is real,
This
huh?
is real." So I call Karma and say, "Hey, look, Minister of Interior said he'll talk to me. I need you to be at this meeting." So she calls down to Dimona, tell the leadership, "We need a list of all of y'all concerns when it comes to the status." So he
Right.
sends her this list of all the concerns that we have. But in the meantime, I tell Benny Beaton, at the same time, I'll help you with your campaign, but you can't tell nobody in the community I'm running this campaign with you. So he says, okay. I said, but every time Kaveri Knesset come to Dimona, because Likud is in the government. They the ones running the government. Every time a Likud member come to Dimona, you got to bring them to the Kifar.
Okay.
So he said, okay. So they come into the Dimona, they come to the Kifar, and no, they ain't the top level Knesset members, so ain't
Right.
nobody at the top level coming to meet them like
Right.
that.
Right.
So finally, this Shishi, Ruby Rieveling, is coming. Now, Ruby Rieveling used to be the spokesperson of the Knesset, so he got all this power.
Okay.
But he's just a regular parliament member now. So he comes on this Shishi, and they give him some flowers. We meet in the Maracas, and I say, "You got to come and see Ben-Ami." So he said, "Okay, I'll go meet him." Now he tells me on the way, any man that takes his children and send them to the military and make a decision like that for a whole community is another kind of man. I want to meet him personally.
Okay.
Now, during this time, we don't know that Robbie is sick. All we know he got malaria as a community. So when he come, Benny Beaton had already got to see Robbie because he went in there to tell him, "I'll help you personally get your citizenship." Because I had told him that it was stuck at the Supreme Court.
Okay. So you had let Benny
Benny
Beaton
Beaton
know that Robbie's
it
situation
was stuck at the Supreme Court
and so
because it had been told to us in our meetings with Karma by the leadership that it was
Okay.
stuck at the Supreme Court. So I tell him, "Look, if you get this man his citizenship, you're going to win the elections."
Right.
So he's like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Just do what I'm telling you. You're going to win the elections." So he goes, he talked to Guidon Sarr. Guidon Sarr says he's going to come to Dimona. So at this time, Guidon Sarr wound up not being able to come to Dimona. So Ruby Rieveling wound up coming. So Ruby Rieveling come up to the Kifar. He tells us he can't meet Robbie because Benny Beaton was the only one who got to see Robbie. He tells him, "You can't go in because he's not feeling good right now, but this is the message that he sent to you," because he sent him some flowers. Okay, so we goes up to the School of the Prophets. We's in the room, myself, Benny Beaton, and everybody's running with him, along with the leadership. Ruby Rieveling says, "I'm not going to lie to you all. I'm not that kind of politician. I'm not the head of the Knesset anymore, and I'm not the Minister of Interior, so I can't give y'all citizenship. But I'll give you all an opportunity to lobby you all situation at the Knesset. I'll set it up because I can invite you all." He said, "But what I would suggest is y'all bring 50 soldiers in uniform, and you all come to the Knesset, and it would have another impact
Right.
on them."
Right.
So we did. But before that, we go to the Minister of Interior in Beersheba, myself and 3 families in Carmel. And we sitting in there asking them about the citizenship. And I'm telling them the states that anybody that served in the military could get full citizenship and their parents. So this brother and finished serving. Now he want to get citizenship for him and his mother. And it's this religious woman, and she doing like this. No. Now the guy that still runs the Dimona office, he was there. The religious guy, and he was behind. And I'm like, why? This is what it states.
If this is what it states, why is it different?
Explain to me why.
Yeah.
So she's going back and forth. Karma's sitting there like she my lawyer. She's dressed in black and white like she a lawyer. So she's going back and forth. Both of us. Is this racist or what? Is it racism? It states on the thing. So I got my phone. I'm recording the whole conversation. So the guy's standing behind me like, you right. Keep talking. So I'm recording, but he don't nobody know I'm recording it. Not even Karma.
Right.
So I'm recording the conversation. So finally, the lady says, what it was for those that live outside of Israel. If they want citizenship, they can apply to get citizenship. This is for soldiers who do, lonely soldiers who come to Israel and serve, and then their parents can request citizenship.
But it didn't state that in the document that it was for foreigners or for people that come in.
But what she says, this wasn't for you all. No, so I says, who want to come to Israel and live in Israel? If we black and we living in America, we got good lives over there. Why would I want to come to Israel and live? I want to come and visit. Why would they want to come and live? She said it wasn't for you all. It was for the Russians. So I said, say that again. It's for who? She says, you got to go. She told me, you got to go. So she calling security. He got to go.
Just you?
Yeah. So I'm not going nowhere. Unless they leave, I'm not going. So she said, well, we're not giving it to you all. End of discussion. Y'all all got to go. So we closed it out and we left.